Well, I chose a hell of a time to go to Boston to PAX East to travel. I am well aware of the controversy surrounding Dragon's Dogma 2. The reason it took me so long to make this video was because I was away from my usual workstation and didn't have time to respond quickly to this whole situation. Many are aware that microtransactions has become a topic of contention surrounding Dragon's Dogma 2. As far as the game itself goes, it's got favorable review scores as far as critics are concerned, and there's a good amount of players checking this game out on Steam. The all-time peak here is looking really good for Capcom, and players are coming back to this game, and it highlights that a lot of people are still playing this game, but that doesn't change the fact that the discussions surrounding microtransactions are very much relevant. Right now, if you look at social media, you'll find tweets like this that highlight that at one point Dragon's Dogma 2 was at a mostly negative review score because of all of this microtransactions that you can spend money on. You can see tweets like these garnered almost 12 million views, over 60,000 likes. Here's another tweet highlighting how this is a $70 to $80 game, has de nouveau and all these elements, and also has microtransactions, and just spotlighted how, you know, the mostly negative review score is something that highlights that people are not happy with the way Capcom has kind of tarnished Dragon's Dogma 2's launch, and tweets like these have garnered, 3.5 million views and over 44,000 likes, so on and so forth. And these are the microtransactions in question. I'd like to begin by explaining what these microtransactions are, detail exactly how they impact gameplay, and also I am going to delve into some of the controversies surrounding the coverage of the microtransactions themselves. So go to Steam right now, you'll find that the number of reviews has increased drastically since launch, over 36,000 user reviews, with now a review score of mixed at 52%. Aside from the microtransactions, one of the main issues surrounding the game is performance and some of the jankiness and even some dated aspects, but there are a lot of compliments surrounding its immersion gameplay and open world exploration, and the combat is being complimented, as well as the fights with some of the bigger creatures and monsters. This is a game that's not perfect, but there are fun elements to it, certainly. But there are some crowds who are not happy to see that stuff like this is being shoved into the game. So if you buy all of this paid DLC or all of these microtransactions combined, that's a total of an additional $41.79. Some people may argue that, compared to the fact that certain games charge $20, $30 for skins, this is not a big price point, and that a lot of this stuff isn't necessary to play the game. I'm in the belief that if you're charging a full $70, $80 for a single player game, then microtransactions just don't belong. Like, you don't need them to have fun with the game, but their inclusions does still add a stain to its launch. So let me break down exactly what these do, starting with the Explorer's Camping Kit. So camping is an important aspect of Dragon's Dogma 2 as you explore the open world. Your maximum health will get chipped at as you take damage, and so you want to rest at camps as you engage in these long treks so you can recover that maximum health. And so what purchasing this does is essentially give you one special camping kit that is less weighty. Weight management is an aspect of Dragon's Dogma 2, and camping kits tend to be somewhat heavy and occupy a decent amount of your weight. This is not as weighty as your traditional camping kits, and these kinds of camping kits essentially become available for purchase at shops in the game. They essentially aim to make carrying around camping kits a bit more convenient, but camping kits can be found aplenty either in shops or out and about in the open world. And you don't need to carry too many of them to make a trek, sort of having around 2 at a time and giving one off to a pawn or something. That'll get you through a trek. And so this is definitely not a highly necessary thing you should purchase. This Explorer's Camping Kit thing is pretty useless overall, and you can definitely get away without purchasing it. But maybe folks who like to carry around more camping kits without having to manage weight as much, maybe they'll be tempted to purchase this particular paid DLC, this particular microtransaction. Next up, we have the Dragon's Dogma Music and Sound Collection, which apparently adds original Dragon's Dogma in-game music and sound effects, so it's more of like a cosmetic thing, I suppose. Then we have the Harpy Snare Smoke Beacons, which gives you 3 harpy lore items that essentially allows you to call in harpies so you can like cling onto them, and they will essentially like lift you up. And it's very situational, where if you need to scale a wall to reach a treasure chest that's behind that wall that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to, then you can call upon this harpy to be able to get you through that obstacle. But there are other ways to get you through those obstacles as well. Like if you have a warrior or a pawn who can like give you a boost, then you can do it that way. And you can also find these in-game as well. Then we have a thoughtful gift, which gives you a pendant that essentially deepens your relationship with NPCs. And there are plenty of ways to deepen relationships with in-game NPCs without having to purchase this microtransaction. So this one's kind of useless, and it's a one-time use thing. And that's another thing to note about these microtransactions. They're not infinitely purchasable. You buy one of these and that's it for the account. So with this item, for example, it's the one heartfelt pendant, and that's all you get. You can't just keep purchasing these over and over again. Every one of these paid DLCs or microtransactions are one-time purchasable for an account. Next up, we have the Ambivalent Rift Incense, which is an item that allows you to change your pawn's inclination to a random one. This is very useless because you can find these items for very cheap, for not much RC at shops in-game. Purchase items that not only allow you to change the inclination of your pawn to a random one, but also to a specific one. So this is very easily circumventable, and it's definitely among the more useless microtransactions items. Makeshift Jail Key allows you to essentially escape from jail if you get arrested. Single use, it breaks once you use it, and again, you can't just purchase this over and over again. You purchase it once, and you can find these in game. And also there are means to escape from jail beyond having a key. So this is also pretty useless overall. Art of Metamorphosis. This is one of the ones that has proven to be more controversial, because people are finding that you can't start a new game in Dragon's Dogma 2 for some reason, which is something that Capcom has recently addressed, stating that they are looking into adding the feature of starting a new game. It seems like a rather strange omission, but they are working towards adding that. And people have been thinking that this is the only way to change your character mid-game. You can find items that let you change your appearance in the game. Now, they're not infinite. They are limited, but there are multiple of them. So you can change your character's appearance multiple times in a playthrough. And also, because of the backlash, Capcom recently said that the Tome of Metamorphosis, which is the item that lets you change your appearance in-game, will be significantly more stocked up in-game now. So your ability to modify your character's appearance is far less limited. According to PC Games End, there's a very recent report, Capcom is now upping the number of Art of Metamorphosis items available at all pawn guilds to 99, meaning you'll pretty much never run out of an opportunity to change your look. And that renders this microtransaction, the Art of Metamorphosis, which is a one-time item to change your pawn's appearance, completely useless. This is why speaking out is important, because it can lead to changes like these. Another more controversial microtransaction is the ability to purchase a port crystal. Port crystals are essentially portable waypoints that you can place anywhere on the map, and they are key to the limited fast travel system of this game. Dragon's Dogma 2 allows you to fast travel via ox cars, so you can find in towns and cities, or by using fairy stones that take you to port crystals that are either there by default or that you yourself place on the map. You can grab these port crystals and place them wherever you want, and they'll take you there, so you can strategically define where your fast travel points are based on the locations that you frequent the most. So the ability to purchase fast travel locations like that is pretty significant, though it should be noted that this is a one-time purchase. You can't just purchase infinite port crystals. This is a one additional port crystal that you'd get for one additional one that you can place down. And even then, as noted by plenty of people who play the game, only 10 can be placed at any given time. And the game itself does give you all of those 10. So if you find them in-game and you get all of them, there's no reason to purchase an 11th port crystal. The only reason to purchase this port crystal microtransaction would be if early on you want more fast travel locations and you don't want to look for the 10th port crystal and you just want to have that readily available. but this is not like infinitely purchasable. It's a one-time purchase per account. But at the same time, this is one of the potentially more significantly affecting elements, though there's enough fast travel systems in the game that, you know, if you just play the game normally, you're not going to have any trouble with fast traveling if you know what those systems are. There's been some misinformation that there's no fast travel in the game whatsoever and that fast travel can only be purchased, and that's simply not true. In-game options for fast travel, while limited, do exist. This just gives you that additional port crystal they can place down on the map. And that's an 11th port crystal out of the 10 that already exist in the game. It's also worth noting that you still need fairy stones to travel to port crystals, and there are no microtransactions that let you get fairy stones. Those you have to get in-game, and those are rare to find, and this was done on purpose. Dragon's Dogma 2 intentionally wants to not let you just fast travel willy-nilly, so you have to trek the world and discover it. And so the requirement of fairy stones and their rarity means that, you know, the ability to buy one port crystal from the Steam paid DLC store is not going to, you know, break fast travel or make it that much more convenient anyway. But it still sucks that this even exists and that this is something that's tarnishing the launch conversation of Dragon's Dogma 2. Next up, we have purchasable wake stones. These are items that you can also find in-game. They are rare, but there are items that let you track where they are on the map and stuff. So if you need them, you can definitely set out and find them and stock them. And they essentially allow you to revive yourself in the middle of combat if you get killed by a monster or something. If you die out and about, you just get to revive yourself or revive your pawns who can die if you don't revive them while they're downed. You can purchase a maximum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wake stones from the paid DLC section here. The rest you do have to find in-game, but they do exist in-game, so I'd say these are also pretty useless, but those who maybe are struggling early on or, you know, want to have those revives available just in case might be tempted to purchase these. So it is potentially gameplay affecting. It's not gonna win you the game or anything, but it does potentially have some impact. And then finally, we have Rift Crystals, which is the currency that is used to purchase pawns. Rift Crystals can be earned aplenty in-game, and you only need to spend them if you want to purchase pawns who are higher level than you, or if you want to customize the pawns that you have. And there are certain items that you can purchase with RC. Those who want an early leg on RC can purchase up to however many RCs all of this amount. So again, these are all one-time purchasable. But then beyond that, you have to get those RCs through gameplay. I find that you earn enough RC just through gameplay where it'd be foolish to spend money on purchasing RC through microtransactions, but obviously that option is there to tempt some of those who maybe don't want to grind for RC or who maybe want a big boost of RC at some point in their playthrough. That's there for people to spend money on. So what these Dragon's Dogma 2 microtransactions amount to is, at best, just really useless stuff that you don't have to purchase to have a proper experience with the game. At worst, they are essentially paywalled cheat codes and paywalled accessibility options that they decided to sell in a full price $70 to $80 game. As a personal stance, I find these completely unacceptable, not game ruining in any way, shape, or form. You could play the game not knowing these microtransactions exist and have the experience that this game is meant to be. But it doesn't change the fact that this stuff is trying to milk a little bit more money out of people who maybe don't want to go through the struggles that you're meant to go through with Dragon's Dogma 2 for it to be the experience that it was designed to be. It is still scummy. It can potentially disrupt the game design of the game a little bit in terms of how it was meant to be played. Or it's stuff that maybe if you want to give to people who want to have an easier time with the game as a cheat option or as an accessibility option, the fact that you're charging for that is still scummy. And Capcom did this to themselves. They shot themselves in the foot in terms of the early conversation of the launch of this game and the fact that this game could have had a higher user score, and the conversation likely would have been much more positive had they not done this thing right here that they don't need to do to make Dragon's Dogma 2 a profitable product. I mean, you can tell from the player numbers that a lot of people are playing this game. No doubt sales are going to show a really positive sign. All Capcom did was generate bad will where there didn't need to be. Like, I really have to wonder if releasing these microtransactions is worth the damage that it does when it comes to the optics and conversations surrounding this game. I've seen folks fairly highlighting how once upon a time we had cheat codes that now you have to buy instead of just, finding them as cool little secrets or inputting the codes required to activate them. And others highlighting how Baldur's Gate 3, one of the biggest games, and I mean, it's been winning all kinds of accolades on top of the fact that it's sold incredibly well. Their stance was there are no in-game purchases. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Meanwhile, Capcom continuously tests the waters on microtransactions. It's not just Dragon's Dogma 2, but previous Capcom releases as well. And yes, these microtransactions are by far not even the worst we've ever seen, but it doesn't change the fact that their existence is still leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. And I think many would agree, Capcom would be far better off if they just stopped doing these little microtransactions bits altogether. Now, Capcom is trying to do some damage control in the form of stating that they're working on the option to start a new game. They are looking into performance issues and ways to improve that in the future. And they've said that as far as changing your character's appearance goes, they're going to make that way easier and pretty much unlimited with upcoming updates. But it could be argued that all of that stuff should have been there at launch. Now, another aspect that I want to talk about is the controversy surrounding people noting that a lot of reviewers didn't point out the microtransactions or didn't highlight them in their reviews. The initial belief was that all this stuff was just kind of snuck in there after launch and that this information was not relayed to reviewers. I thought the same at first, but as it turns out, this was information that was in fact relayed to reviewers in the email that sent out the review codes and the review guides surrounding this game. Now, there are reviewers who've said that they just felt that all this stuff looks so inconsequential to the gameplay experience of Dragon's Dogma 2 based on the hours that they played of the game that they didn't even feel like it was necessary to relay this information. I'm in the camp of this information should be relayed, and the reason I didn't was, and I feel really stupid for this, I missed the link that takes me to that screenshot that showed all of this DLC. I didn't even know this information was there in the review guide because I missed it. And I'm going to kick myself for this for a long time. And it's human error. And the basic of it is I fucked up. I essentially saw the email, and these review guides are all so similar that I kind of know what information is there usually. And what I do is I look for the one big PDF that has all of the slides that have all of the information that I need. And so I downloaded the one PDF review guide. It told you all of the restrictions and what not to spoil and stuff like that. And there was a big warning that there is like a spoiler guide as well that I didn't want to check out because I obviously didn't want to spoil myself in terms of some of the more dramatic moments of the game or some of the cool aspects of the game or some of the later stuff in the game. And so I figured that this one review guide had everything in it without realizing that there was a secondary link to this thing labeled paid DLCs. I just figured that the one PDF that I had everything that I need because that's usually how it goes. And with the routine that I go through with review guides and it's sort of playing out almost exactly the same every time, I didn't expect I wasn't looking for a link for details of microtransactions or paid DLCs. And so my brain just kind of like, I don't know, it just skipped over that link for some reason and just figured the one PDF that had all of the stuff except for the microtransaction stuff had everything in it. And I simply had a lapse where I did not click on the link with the paid DLCs guide. I didn't even really know that was there, even though it's not really hidden or anything. It's just, I don't know. There was a period of time when all this stuff started to come out where I was like, what the hell? Capcom didn't tell reviewers about this stuff. And then a few reviewers started to come out with, in the email, there is a link to the paid DLC's screenshot that tells you everything that they were going to sell with microtransactions at launch. And I was like, what the? I didn't see this. I wasn't in my review guide. And then I double checked that email. And then I saw that link. And yeah, I felt really fucking stupid. I facepalmed, and I couldn't believe that I missed that. So that's what happened on my end. It wasn't like an intentional leaving out that information, and it wasn't Capcom kept it from me. It was me just not, for some reason, not seeing the link to that particular bit of information. And I can only apologize for this error on my part. And next time I'm going to make doubly sure to ensure that I get all the information, that I click on all the links that are there. Even if, and one of the reasons why we don't like overly read certain emails is because they do have spoilers. Like some review guides do have spoilers, and then like, don't spoil this, and they tell you what the spoiler is, and it does kind of impact the experience of playing the game. And so I try to look at just the most relevant and important information of the review guides and download the main primary guide that is usually there as a PDF. Everything else is so routinely like, oh, well, I know what everything else says, that, I wasn't looking for a paid DLC guide, and I didn't see it. But I should have seen it. That's all I'll say. Like, that there's no excuse. Regardless of whether the microtransactions significantly impact the overall gameplay experience or not, I think it is my job to relay that information to you so that you can make an informed decision yourself, so you can look at what's here in terms of microtransactions and determine whether it is a make or break for you. That's for you to decide, not for me. And so at the very least, I should have relayed that information had I known that that information was there, had I not stupidly missed the link and the paid DLC's guide bit of text that my brain for some reason glossed over and only looked at the main review guide. I feel like an idiot. I am an idiot for missing that. I'm sorry. That's all I can say. I did not mean to fool you or to hide facts from you. I just had a brain fart of epic proportions. And yeah, people have every right to call me out on it. I do want to note, however, some people are taking it too far and saying that I didn't talk about the performance issues in my review, which I absolutely did, that I didn't talk about some of the janky elements and stuff. I definitely did talk about all that. If you watch the second half of the review, performance issues are highlighted, and I spend quite a bit of time highlighting some of the ways that certain quests just felt weirdly designed or seemed broken in certain areas, and some of the dated and janky elements. Like, that stuff is in the review. It's just the microtransaction stuff that, you know, I would have absolutely put in the review had my brain not farted this epically. It doesn't change the fact that I should be rightly called out on that, because it was my job to, you know, double check all that stuff. And I just saw that there wasn't an in-game store or something in Dragon's Dogma 2 and figured, well, that's that. You know, there's no microtransactions, is what I thought, without thinking about the possibility that through the Steam page and sort of outside the game DLCs, microtransactions could be distributed through there, and without double checking that Capcom put a link to this paid DLC's review guide. That's just my bad. There's no other way to put it. And hopefully relaying this in this video will on some level be able to make up for that, though if it doesn't make up for it, I understand. And maybe one thing that will help make up for it is the fact that if you want these DLCs but not pay for it, I'll link you to this IGN article that details modders who've already gone out of their way to ensure that you can circumvent certain restrictions or essentially get what the microtransactions offer for free. If you want to get these cheat codes or accessibility options, whatever you want to call them, but not have to pay for them, there's this mod called Crazy Shop that gives you hundreds of each of these key items, including Elite and Explorer's Camp Kits, Wake Stones, Rift Crystals, Port Crystals, and Fairy Stones to the first shop in Vensworth. It's already been downloaded nearly 35,000 times. So for those who want these items aplenty, you can just go to this shop, and you do need to spend like in-game gold to buy these, but they're there at basically unlimited quantities, so that there's an option there for you. And then there is Early and Cheap Art of Metamorphosis mod, which adds the Art of Metamorphosis tome to the first merchant in Melv and to Filbert, Sundries, and Vernsworth. And as you can see right here in the screenshot, there are tons of these available, like 99 basically, so you'll have plenty of room to modify your character without restriction. And then finally, there's a Save Manager mod. One of the big complaints surrounding Dragon's Dogma 2 is the way saves work and the fact that there's only one save and it's very easily overwritten, and that's led to unfortunate situations. I've heard of one situation where somebody died and accidentally decided to load to the last time they saved at an inn or slept at an inn. They thought they were going to get taken back to their last camp rest, but instead they got taken back to like really early game, and they lost a whole lot of progress because that save got overwritten with that early slot when they last rested at the inn, which was way back. And so frustrations like that have been reported. And so with this save manager, you can have multiple save slots and you can make saves work in a much more forgiving way. And that fixes that element. And also that means you can have, potentially multiple characters instead of just the one character save slot. So a lot of solutions already being worked on by modders, which is, not untraditional in the PC gaming landscape, which is good to see. But yeah, there you have it, folks. With all said and done, I think it sucks that Dragon's Dogma 2's launch had to be tarnished by Capcom's corporate decision to implement microtransactions where they absolutely don't belong, regardless of whether people feel like they impact gameplay dramatically or not. It's just scummy that they're there at all, and it does pave the road for people to kind of view this game in a less than stellar light. Whereas if the issue with the game was, performance issues, and that was it, which is fixable at the very least, even though it's unfortunate that the game comes with performance issues, it'd be easier for the masses to appreciate everything that Dragon's Dogma 2 does get right, and it does get a lot right. It is ultimately a really fun game for those who kind of jive with Dragon's Dogma 2's particular style of open world action RPG. But all of that positive conversation is getting buried underneath what is, I think, understandable conversation surrounding Capcom's insistence on shoving in these kinds of microtransactions that, again, may not be the worst thing ever per se, but still kind of leave a bad taste, and still it feels like they're still kind of trying to poke and prod at this thing that just shouldn't be, period. So hopefully Capcom will look at the Dragon's Dogma 2 situation and see it as a lesson learned, so that future game releases can, that have the potential to have an overwhelmingly positive kind of conversation surrounding them can stay positive in their launch conversation, instead of delving into this kind of negative press that didn't need to happen if Capcom had just not pushed the big red microtransactions button. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. And once again, I apologize for my lapse in not seeing the frickin' link to the image showing the microtransactions. I promise you, I would have relayed that information had I seen that was there and had I known that was there. That aspect is nobody's fault but my own. And I'll accept the consequences of that. But thank you for tuning in, folks, and hopefully this has kind of summarized everything you need to know about the Dragon's Dogma 2 situation. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.